If your worth disappears the moment you stop being useful to others, it was never love. It was a transaction. You are not here to be the glue that keeps everyone else from falling apart while you shatter in silence. I was 12 years old the first time someone looked me in the eye and said, "You're so mature for your age." And I remember the warmth that filled me, not because I fully understood what they meant, but because I saw pride in their face, approval. Like I had just done something right without even trying. What they were really saying, though, was something I didn't hear until much later in life. Thank you for making my life easier. Thank you for not needing anything back. That moment planted a seed. And from then on, I started chasing that feeling. I became the good kid, the responsible one, the one who didn't cry too loud, didn't take up too much space, didn't rock the boat. I knew that being helpful, being kind, being needed was how I would stay safe, loved, valuable. So I got good at scanning the room, reading people's moods like road signs, fixing problems before they became conflicts, showing up with solutions, with softness, with silence. And for a while it worked. People leaned on me, they trusted me. They called me strong, selfless, such a good listener. They came to me for help, but rarely asked how I was doing. And I didn't expect them to, because somewhere along the line, I stopped believing that my feelings were part of the equation. I thought love was a reward for usefulness. But let me tell you something no one warned me about. Being the person everyone counts on becomes a cage when you're not allowed to fall apart. There comes a moment when your body, your soul, your heart all whisper the same quiet, terrifying question. If I stop being useful, will anyone still see me? Will anyone still stay? Psychologists call it enmeshment, a term that sounds clinical but feels like drowning. It's when your identity becomes so entangled in the needs and emotions of others that you forget where you end and they begin. You become someone who exists for other people's comfort, not your own truth. And it's quiet, it's praised, and it's slowly erasing you. And the worst part? Most of us don't even recognize it until we're exhausted beyond words. Until we're so burnt out, so emotionally bankrupt, that we can't keep pretending we're okay. And still, we feel guilty for needing rest, for saying no, for not being available. But here's what I've learned, and it might hurt a little. If your value is conditional on what you do for others, it's not love. It's labor. It's a performance, and it's breaking you. You are not a service. You are not a solution. You are not the emotional janitor cleaning up everyone else's mess while your own pain collects dust in the corner. You are a human being. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to say, "I can't." You are allowed to just be and still be worthy of love, still be worthy of rest, still be enough. And if someone walks away because you stopped performing, let them. Because the ones who stay when you have nothing left to give, the ones who see you, not just your usefulness, those are the ones who deserve to walk beside you. The rest, let them free. Let yourself be free. I once gave everything I had to someone who said they loved me. The kind of love that wasn't loud or showy, but steady. I became their emotional compass, their safe space, their problem solver, their constant. I showed up on the days they were difficult, on the nights they were silent, on the mornings they couldn't even meet me halfway. I thought love meant being reliable, unshakable, always there no matter what. I convinced myself that if I just loved harder, stayed longer, forgave quicker, they'd finally see my worth and protect it. But the truth came in quiet pieces. It started the day I needed something in return. Just some care. some presence, a listening ear. And suddenly the person who always had room for their chaos had no room for my pain. I wasn't useful anymore. I wasn't easy. I was asking, not giving. And within days, the silence became distance. The distance became indifference. And that indifference, it shattered me in ways I didn't even know I could break. It felt like I got fired from a job I didn't know I was applying for. A job where the unspoken expectation was to give endlessly and receive sparingly. Where the moment I stopped being convenient, I was replaced. And in that silence, I asked the question that cut deepest. Was I ever loved, or was I just used? That question sits heavy, because what we call love sometimes isn't love at all. It's performance-based acceptance. It's, I'll keep you around as long as you meet my emotional needs. It's be everything for me and nothing for yourself. Psychologically, this is rooted in something we rarely name: conditional regard. It's when love, affection, connection are handed out in response to how well you play your part. Children raised in these dynamics grow up believing they have to earn their place in people's lives through perfection, through service, through silence. So we carry this into adulthood. We become adults who confuse love with labor, who confuse being chosen with being used. And what's so painful is that we're not always wrong to think it. Because many of us have been in relationships, romantic, familial, even friendships, where we were only as valuable as the things we provided. And when the fuel ran out, so did they. But let me tell you something gut honest and clear. If someone stops loving you when you stop serving them, that was never love. So that was convenience dressed in intimacy. You are not a vending machine for comfort. You are not a life raft for people who never learned to swim. You are not a task on someone's emotional to-do list. Real love sees you in your silence, your softness, your stillness. It stays when you're not at your best. It doesn't keep a tally of what you've done for it lately. It doesn't withdraw affection when you draw a boundary. It doesn't make you prove your place over and over again. So if you've been mourning the loss of someone who couldn't stay the moment you needed to, don't question your worth. Question the version of love you were taught to accept. You didn't fail. You just finally stopped performing. And that's not the end of your story. That's the beginning of real, honest, earned belonging. I remember sitting in my car one night, just parked in the driveway, unable to go inside. My hands were gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing holding me together. I had just told someone I deeply cared about no for the first time. Not with anger, not with bitterness, just honesty. I said, I can't keep doing this for you. I'm tired. I need something back. And the silence that followed wasn't just silence. It was a verdict. It was the beginning of the end. The warmth disappeared. The check-ins stopped. The lightness between us dissolved. All because I stopped bending. And there, in that car, with my body trembling and my heart cracked wide open, I wasn't just grieving the loss of that connection. I was grieving the version of me that had always been the caretaker, the giver, the dependable one. The version of me that had built her identity around being needed. The version I had clung to because it made me feel loved, even if it meant sacrificing myself in the process. Letting go of that version of me felt like death. And no one warned you about that kind of loss. Because people will applaud your boundaries, cheer for your healing, repost quotes about self-love, but few will sit with you in the raw ache of unbecoming, the ache of walking away from the person you were trained to be just to be accepted. There's a grief that comes with healing. a grief that most people never talk about. It's the grief of realizing how much of your life was shaped by survival. How much of your personality was actually a mask? How many of your smiles were shields? How many yeses were betrayals of your own body whispering no? And yet we hold on to those identities like life rafts because even when they're painful, they're familiar. And the unfamiliar, being honest, being seen, being selfish in the healthiest sense, is terrifying. Who are you without your usefulness, without your oversummoning, without the role everyone expects you to play? In psychology, this is what we call self-differentiation. It's the painful but necessary process of separating who you actually are from who you became to make other people comfortable. It's the slow, courageous shedding of false skin. And it hurts because you lose people, you lose praise, you lose the safety of predictability. But here's what you gain: yourself, your messy, tired, soft, unfiltered self. The one who doesn't have to earn rest. The one who can be loved even in their silence. The one who knows their worth is not in what they offer, but in who they are when there's nothing left to give. It's not just grief, it's rebirth. And it's not linear. Some days, you'll want to go back, you'll miss being needed, even if it hurt, because it gave you purpose. But don't confuse purpose with worth. You're allowed to lay that role down. You're allowed to mourn it. And then slowly, you're allowed to meet the version of you that no longer performs to be loved. She's not selfish. She's not cold. She's finally fully real. The first time I started setting real boundaries, not the polite kind, not the let me soften this so you're not uncomfortable kind, but the raw, honest, this doesn't work for me anymore kind, I was terrified. My hands would shake, my throat would dry up, my body would go into full fight or flight mode. Because I had been taught, both directly and indirectly, that my value came from being easy to love, easy to handle, easy to manage, not disruptive, not demanding, not too much. So when I started saying things like, I need space, or that doesn't feel okay to me, or I'm not available for that anymore, I wasn't just changing behavior, I was challenging my deepest fear. What if I'm only lovable when I'm agreeable? And let me tell you, the moment you start honoring yourself, the people who benefited from your self-abandonment will often be the first to label you as difficult. Suddenly, you're too much, you're overreacting, you're not the same. And those words cut deep. Not because they're true, but because they echo every unhealed part of you that's still afraid of being left behind for finally taking up space. We carry this invisible fear in our nervous systems. The fear that if we ask for what we need, or admit when something hurts, or say no instead of yes, we'll be met with rejection. And it's not irrational. For many of us, it did happen. We grew up in homes where boundaries were punishable, where love came with conditions, where silence was safer than honesty. So now as adults, we flinch when we advocate for ourselves. We over-explain, we apologize for existing, we ask for crumbs of respect instead of demanding the full meal of reciprocity. And then we wonder why we feel unseen, misunderstood, resentful. This fear of being too much or not enough is rooted in something psychologists call core shame. It's the belief that if people see the real us, they'll walk away, that we are fundamentally unworthy unless we're performing a version of ourselves that makes others comfortable. So we shrink. We self-silence, we edit our needs down to a whisper. But the truth is this: your needs are not a burden. Your boundaries are not a betrayal. Your truth is not a threat. Let that settle deep in your bones. Because when you start setting boundaries, you're not becoming someone else. You're returning to yourself. You're unlearning the lie that your worth is based on how convenient you are. You're reteaching your body that safety isn't found in self-sacrifice, it's found in self-honor. Yes, people will leave. Yes, you'll disappoint some. And yes, it will hurt. But what hurts more? Staying in rooms where you have to disappear to be allowed to stay. The people who love you conditionally only love the version of you that serves them. The people who love you fully love all of you, including the messy, complicated, boundaried you. They don't get scared off when you say this isn't okay. They lean in. So here's what I'll say to the part of you that's terrified. You are not too much. You never were, and you are already enough. Even when you say no, even when you walk away, even when you take up space that was never offered to you freely. That space, it's yours now. Stand in it. She was in her late 60s when she sat across from me, her hands folded neatly in her lap, her voice steady but full of weariness. A woman who had spent a lifetime giving, raising children, caring for aging parents, volunteering at every community function, making meals, folding laundry, keeping the peace, and never once asking for anything in return. And now, here she was, years later, tired and aching, whispering through a forced smile, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't even know what I like. I just don't feel useful anymore. Her words gutted me, because it wasn't just about feeling old, it was about feeling discarded. Like all the value she had worked her entire life to build had quietly vanished the moment she could no longer do what she used to do. Her joints had grown stiff, her energy waned, and suddenly the phone calls came less often. The "can you help me with" turned into long stretches of silence. And what haunted her most wasn't the physical pain. It was the terrifying question no one ever dares to say out loud. If I'm not needed, do I still matter? And that question, it lives in so many of us. Because from the time we are small, the world teaches us that we must earn our place, be helpful, be kind, be productive, get good grades, be agreeable, be selfless, do more, give more, smile more, apologize more. And maybe it worked for a while. Maybe the praise felt like proof. Maybe the gratitude kept us going. But eventually, that identity begins to hollow out. You start to feel like you're always auditioning for love, always hustling for belonging. You find yourself constantly tired, but never fulfilled. So, what if you're a little tired, but never constantly needed, but never truly seen? That's because you were never taught how to just be and still believe you were worthy. Psychologists talk about something called unconditional positive regard, the idea that human beings are most emotionally healthy when they are accepted just as they are, without strings. But how many of us were actually raised in homes, systems, or relationships that made us feel safe in our stillness, in our limits, in our inability to perform? It is a radical act to believe, I am enough, even when I am doing nothing. I am enough, even when I am not fixing anyone. I am enough, even when I am resting, messy, confused, or falling apart. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's not a mantra you whisper to the mirror once. It's a choice you make daily, moment by moment, to unhook your worth from your output. Because what we're talking about here isn't laziness or entitlement, it's self-worth. Deep, cellular self-worth that says, I do not exist to prove myself. I exist to live fully. There will be days when it feels uncomfortable, when sitting still feels more vulnerable than running yourself into the ground. There will be people who will question your value the moment you stop performing. Let them. because those people were only ever in love with your function, not your fullness. Your worth doesn't increase when you give more. It doesn't decrease when you give less. It simply is. So I want you to imagine this. Ever watered a relationship that left you parched? Would you still be worthy? The answer is yes, 1,000 times yes. Because your worth is not a currency. It is not transactional. It is not something to be negotiated, earned, or kept alive through effort. It was with you the whole time. Beneath the layers, beneath the roles, beneath the pressure. And maybe today is the day you stop proving and start believing that you are always enough, just as you are. Not someday, not when you get it together, not when you finally meet their expectations. Right now, still worthy. So if you've been carrying the silent pressure of being everything to everyone, just stop for a moment, breathe, come back to yourself. You were never meant to be their savior. You were meant to be you, whole, human, free. And that is more than enough.